Greetings, hello, and welcome everyone. Welcome to DevChatter. I noticed that I did not start up this program before we got that there. So I'm going to go ahead and get i7 running before we start. And then I'm going to reload the screen. But anyway, welcome. Hopefully everybody's having a fantastic Saturday. Sorry about the delay on the stream here, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I've got some changes that I've made outside the stream that I'm going to briefly explain, and then we will jump into writing some code. There are a couple of other features that I want to get built into here that we'll talk about and build together. So I'm going to flip us over to the BRB screen and then bring us right back. So hang on one sec. Okay, there we go. Now, the reason I did that was just to make that reload, and I mean, I could go find that exact thing and reload it, but it was easy to just toss us on the BRB screen, so I did that. Either way, welcome, greetings, hello. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. Let's see, I saw a couple of people say hi in chat, so greetings, S&B, welcome. Nerd Rage, greetings, and Splinter, hello. Yep, you can make the menu just green. Oh, no, I didn't connect it to chat, so you can't do that yet. But as soon as it says hi, then you can. There you go. Now you can control that menu. So if you want to control this menu, use the menu commands, kind of like it shows in there. And if you want to control these colors, just type in the name of a color, or a hex code for that matter, starting with a number sign. So, yep. Control of menu colors, overlays, things like that, all in the hands of chat. We might have people like slowly streaming in over time. I wasn't able to send in. You can do lime on the outer border. I don't mind lime on that border because it's just like this little highlight then, so it's not bad there. But yeah, turning that lime is really annoying. There are a couple of other pretty bad colors, too. Yeah, so what I was saying is we'll probably have like an influx of people pretty late into the stream is my guess, because Discord seems to be down right now. So welcome to the internet. Sometimes stuff just goes out. I need to spin up FF7 just in case we need to test anything. There's a setting on your chat to show readable colors. Oh, yeah, no, Stolly, I don't mean like the chat colors, but yes, I do know what you mean. So if anyone doesn't like if you can't read someone's name inside a Twitch chat because their name is either too dark or too light, you can set the primary Twitch like chat display to show readable colors, and that will adjust that. Specifically in when we're changing the color of a menu inside of Final Fantasy VII, if you make it too bright, it is really hard to read. So I will show you what I mean really fast by just loading that up so everybody can see what we're talking about. So this is Final Fantasy VII, and I will load it very quickly just so you can see what I'm talking about. So if this menu is up on the screen and someone does... hang on, let me be ready to turn it off again really quickly. That's really painful. So we don't leave it on that color. So if anyone's ever trolling and changes it to that color or something else equally bright, just change it off quickly, because it's just pain. No one really wants to see that. So we also have other things like menu random works nicely. And the cool thing is you'll notice that this menu here is always going to reflect the colors that it's going to do in the actual game. So if you ever want to see what menu color control you've got, you can always look at this one. So for anyone that doesn't know, the program that we've been building in here is, yeah, that is true, S&B. We do not charge for specific color uses, and yes, I agree. If someone's actually playing the game and streaming it, there are some ways around it. For example, you can make a... So we have color palettes, so that's actually how you can say, like, menu Brendan. And then it goes right over there to a color palette that is defined as the Brendan palette. And then that's like dark red, black, black, dark red, or something like that. It's just an interesting color that I decided to put in there at one point. If you made menu lime equal like something else, then you can avoid that. Yeah. The trick is that then someone could just go to the hex code that is that lime color, and you could be like, well, I could block that too, and then it's like, well, they could also, like, just change it by, like, a slight amount, so I guess you could check the hue and be like, is it about that shade of lime and saturation and lightness? And you're like, it's like, oh, good, yeah, okay, the HSL's about right for that, yeah, we'll block that, like, at which point I'm like, no, just change the color again. If you're really having problems with it, that's what mods with ban hammers are for. Okay, so anyway, yeah, lime-like. Yeah, thank you. Yes, precisely. Like, it is a pointless fight. I don't know, like, you could do it if you want, but, like, why? I don't know. Okay. So let's talk about what we're doing with the game. So, first off, let me show you. So this is the WPF program that actually controls all of the interactions with Final Fantasy VII. So it is all running through here. This is both what is serving up these overlays. So this is just a web page here, that little menu there, and it's just displaying that using HTML and CSS, and then that's what makes that little box. Additionally, it is also connecting into the game and reading the data in there and writing to the data in the game. So our program is like latched on to Final Fantasy VII quite nicely. One of the features that is in here is this one. It is the status effects, and you'll see that this game has a lot of status effects that are available to us. This is actually not even all the effects. We have some of them just are not included because they're fairly complicated, and so I've left them out for now because we would need to do some extra like work to make them function, so they're just not in here. But we allow the user to apply a lot of status effects, and the individual streamer can decide to, allow or disallow certain effects. In fact, they can turn them off entirely. But sometimes you might want one to be allowed to be used, but you need a way of undoing it. So that's why we added in the most recent command. So let's go start up a battle, and I will apply some status effects to the party, and we'll watch what happens. As close as it can. Yeah, basically, S&B, it's kind of like a face hugger. Right on Final Fantasy VII. That's about right. Okay. So, the reason why I have a save right here is because I can just go in and just click through some text box and trigger a battle, and I, can have a predictable, easy battle to just load up and show for, like, demoing and trying stuff out, because it gets me 2 enemies, it's got a party of 3 characters, so fairly easy battle, pretty easy to work with. Okay, let's try a couple of things. First off, I'm going to sleep, confuse, and regen our characters. So, Tifa's confused. You saw that because she attacked Cloud. Cloud was put to sleep. Actually, let's put him back asleep. Okay, so Cloud's asleep. So there's a handful of statuses on the party, which actually, let me do this so it's paused. So I'm clicked out of the screen, so that pauses the game. The game doesn't run when it's not focused. That's just a setting for how that program runs. So right now it is just frozen like that. So if we change the menu color, for example, you'll watch it change here, but it won't change in the game. If I click back into the game, you'll see it did change those memory values, but the game is paused effectively. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to allow those bad status effects. Now, remember I said Tifa's character's confused, that's the middle one. Cloud, who's the guy in the back with the blonde spiky hair, he has the sleep status effect, and Barrett has the regen status effect. Now, Barrett's is a positive, and Cloud and Tifa's are negatives. So the esuna command, which is the one that we just added, if, well, I added outside of stream. If I do an esuna all, and you'll watch me send that into chat, it should remove the bad status effects and leave the good ones. Well, once it applies. Oh, no! Okay, no, it worked. It did work. Now, the silly thing is, there were no bad status effects on Barrett. So there is one little bug with that, but you'll notice that Tifa's no longer confused and Cloud is no longer asleep. Now, if you're wondering why I said, oh no, it's because for a moment, Cloud was facing the wrong direction. But then as soon as Tifa's animation finished, he was facing the correct direction. To explain that one, Cloud was in an intermediary state between getting the statuses removed, and so I worried that he was in it, but it was actually just that Tifa's animation had triggered. I thought we had put him in a bad state, but we didn't, so that's good. It was just a temporary display issue that we caused there in the game, technically. Okay, so how does it work? So the esuna command takes it a couple of things. First off, you'll notice I said esuna all. I also could do, you know what? Here, let me do this. We'll poison all, just so you can see how that works. So all three are poisoned, and then if I do esuna all, you'll watch they should, well, once this animation finishes, it should remove, so there we go. So they all lost the poison effect. So I just wanted to show that so you can see that that is actually happening, and that is how that works. If you're watching in the chat, you need to look at it. So if you're watching in the future on YouTube or something like that, do make sure you're looking in that chat box over there to see what I'm typing. Otherwise, none of this will make sense. Okay, so when we run our command, we bring in our command data, and I figure out who was targeted. In this case, we said it was all the targets. So I then take that and I say, okay, you know, we have a, because we received all, we get back all of the targets, and I say, okay, let's check who's valid. Since there were 3 characters, all the targets are valid, so top, middle, and bottom are all in here. And then we check whether or not the user can afford it. So this is just a standard kind of check that we do in a lot of our commands. In this case, because I'm the streamer, it doesn't cost me any gil to use the command, so we just say, yep, we bypass that because I can afford it. And then we come down here and we just say, hey, for each one of our valid targets, go ahead and clear out the negative statuses, and then send a message that says, hey, we removed the negative status from that one. Now, because of the way we wrote it, it always does top, middle, then bottom, so that maybe someone will be unhappy that one of those happened first or last, but that's just the way our program does it, so if they really cared about getting the bottom one cleared first, they should have cleared out bottom manually. Okay, let's take a look at clear negative statuses. So this is essentially the method that is going to perform esuna for us. So if you're wondering about the name esuna, that's going to go to a thing in the game. There is, yeah, I could randomize it. That is true, S&B. But I see no reason. We can have a specified order and just let it be known that it's going to do it in that order. So in the game, there is a spell that your characters can cast called esuna. When you use that, it will remove negative status effects from the character that you cast it on. As you can probably guess if you're looking at the code at all, the set of statuses that it clears out are Sleep, Fury, Frog, Berserk, Poison, Confusion, Small, Paralyzed, Sadness, Silence, Petrify, and Darkness. So that's it's a lot of bad statuses that can get removed. Some people might consider Fury or Sadness to be a positive status, but so maybe I shouldn't use the word negative, but they are the ones that esuna clears. So what I do to make this work is I'm actually taking these enums, and we are doing a bitwise OR operation. So if you don't know what that means, here's basically the way that it works. we'll do a quick explanation of it. And I saw some stuff in chat. I will get to that in a minute. Just to show an example. Okay, so obviously I've got about half as many bits as I'm supposed to for an int in C#. Don't worry about that. This is an example. So, if this were the value of the sleep enum, and this, so, were the value of the poison enum, and this were sadness, for example. So notice each one has a single bit, and it's basically whether or not the character has that status effect or whether they don't. When you OR them together like this, what you end up doing is basically, hang on, let me write it. So that's kind of like taking this, if we said that this was sleep, sad, we'll say sad, so they're the same length so you can line them up. And then this one is, oh, actually that's not the correct order, this is sadness. And I said this was, that's poison. I have to stop it because that's why you're getting all the purple squigglies, so it'll be a little bit easier to read this way. If we do that, and we then did foo equals, it doesn't matter, I'm just putting them together like this. Poison and sadness. So if we did this, why is it, its value is assigned but never used? It's used here. What are you lying to me about? Foo. There we go. You gonna stop complaining about it now? No? It's used right... Oh, sleep isn't. Yeah, okay, whoops. Alright, sleep was legit. Why are the other ones complaining? Oh, they just want to be consts. Okay. That's fine. You can complain about not being made constants. Okay, so I made consonants. Or store it and then apply all at once? Store it and then apply all at once? Oh, yes, Stolly, yeah, we could attempt to apply to all of them, but due to the way that statuses work in Final Fantasy VII, we actually can't get away with that. There are some special things about status effects on characters that force us to do it this way. Hey, Riley Dom, welcome, greetings. Okay, why is this one complaining? Oh, it's just because of the spelling. Thanks, thing. Alright. So, when we combine these together, what we end up with is this value. So, the foo value down there, because this is saying sleep or poison or sadness, and this is doing a bitwise OR, what this says is, for every bit of those numbers, go ahead and perform an OR, so a Boolean OR operation. Now, obviously, any programmers in here are going to know what that means, or if you are, I should say, any like classically trained like computer sciencey people. Nikki Supra, hey, welcome, long time no see. Welcome back to the stream. Glad you're here. Thank you very much for the tier 1 sub. Oh, and you're lurking. Well, have a good lurk. And thank you for triggering a hype there, S&B. And Toka Yeet, I'm guessing. Hello, welcome, greetings. Yes, we're doing some fun stuff. I'm actually explaining some basic just programming stuff right now. Bitwise OR operation right now. So if we do an OR, what that says is, so an OR in like a Boolean logic sense means that true or false is going to be true. So it's basically looking at Boolean values of true and false. So false and false. So false or false is false. False or true is true, and true or true is true. But also true or false is true. So there's 4 states. So in this case, since we have essentially what that means is by ORing them together, we can just look at these rows right here, and we know, okay, if there's a 1 in any of these, then there's a 1 down in the result. If there's a 1 in any of these, then there's a 1 down in the result. And since we know that all of these are zeros, they'll all transfer down to the bottom as a 0 as well. So hopefully that made sense to everyone. That's the basic idea, and so that's what I'm doing here. So this negative status effects actually gets a value that is all of these other status effects combined. So that's sort of how it works. So that's basically, I've said, hey, take all these, shove them all together. Now, the nice thing is that in Final Fantasy VII, what they did, and this helps us a little bit, is they actually set up the status effects as these essentially bit flags. So that's actually that's usually the term that we use for this when we're doing this kind of programming, is essentially this enum is an integer, and you can see the values right here. Now, these were written as hex, only because I just pulled them from elsewhere. But if you wrote them as binary values, first off, they would be fairly large binary values, as this obviously is. Let me show you. There it is in binary. So you can understand why we're not using the binary display in this case, because that is really hard to read. And like distinguishing that from this is not easy. Even if you do this. So you can understand why we didn't write it this way. But if you look at that, you can see that this is actually how they are set up. So, if you look at the alignment there, you'll see that all the status effects are a different bit being turned on. So that's how they determine what status effect it is. So because the game was written the same way and did it this way, what we need to do is essentially we created this, which is all of the negative status effects. And I then said, remove this status. Now the cool thing about this is that the remove status method here, that can remove a single status. If I just passed in, like, you know, status effect sleep, it would remove sleep. But in this case, I passed in the full set of that and it used it. So because it's taking this, I can actually pass in a combined value. Now this concept that I'm doing here of passing in an enum that has this, you can actually use this in other parts of your code. So, like, you'll find this in a lot of places, actually. You'll commonly find it in, like, read-write permissions and things like that. So, when you're doing access to a file or something, you might specify what permissions you need, whether it be read, write, you know, modify, etc., right? There's all kinds of permissions within different file systems. And so, a lot of times you'll specify them using these little, these OR tricks. So the cool thing is you can save those. You do not need to every time pass, like, you know, sleep and poison, because obviously the combination of sleep and poison might have some other, like, name or meaning. And that's when, you know, in this case I've said negative effects. So that's the cool thing we did there. Shocks, I'm guessing you pronounce that Shocks. Welcome, thank you very much for that follow. Glad you're enjoying the stream, because you've actually been here since pretty much the start of this one today. Status... I think I did show the status effects enum. You probably asked that a while ago, and I jumped over here and we looked at it and went back. It's actually just using hex literals over there, because I copied those numbers in from elsewhere. So I didn't put them in that way, and hex literals work fine for it. You can also write them in decimal if you want, and the cool thing in decimal is if you do put them in decimal, you'll actually see each one is just double the previous one, because being bit flags, they are always twice the number above them. So, see? Every time it's just double the previous one. So, cool little thing. I don't care whether it's a hex literal or you know, the decimal literal. It does not matter at all. This is just what was in there, and I think I might have done this to match with the ones that the Seng status overlay was using. So, okay. Oh, Wi-Fi slow. Could I use shifts? So you could technically use shifts to create these. The problem is if you shift them, you're just switching from death to near death to sleep to poison. That's all that shifting the bit would do in this case. Whereas we want to we want to combine them. So if you do an or, that will combine them nicely. Plus, it's really readable for anyone that's looking at this that is, you know, the combination of that set. Okay, so when we do this, essentially all that I do is I'm actually using the same apply full status that I do for our set actor status. So when we assign a status, I just say, hey, take whatever their current state is, add in the status I'm supposed to be adding. So that's or equals, means do an or with this and assign back to the initial thing. And then we go ahead and say apply. Now, how do I remove statuses, you might be wondering. Death 1, poison... Oh, yes. Matt, yes, we could have written it that way. Yes, you are correct. You could write it bit shift to define them, yes. But at the same time, the way that we did it works fine also. So, yep. We meant use bit shifting in the diff. Yes, I got that now, S&B. Yes. Yep. You absolutely could. And then that would actually probably be more readable than the binary literal is in this case, just because of how large the numbers get. Okay, so the way that I removed them is I basically took what our -1 was, and I did a not on it. So essentially I said, you know, flip all the bits. So if it was, you know, 1010, I have flipped it to be 0101. So flip every bit. Now the reason I did this is because in order to remove a status, I need to say like, hey, you know, we need to get rid of that. So we need to undo that. So basically take all of these and switch them from being 1s for each status effect and make them a 0. And everything that was a 0 we need to be a 1. Now, why do I need it to be a 1? Well, the reason is, if these are the bad status effects that I'm trying to get rid of, right, these last 2 bits, if the character already had... So let's say I'm trying to remove this last one. So let's say this is their current status. They have 1011, and I want to remove status 1. Well, in order to remove it, what I want to do is I want to say 1011 and 1110, because the result of this is going to be 1010. So if you look at this lined up so that we can see how that works, just to confirm that I am telling you the truth, you'll see when I do an and on these, we'll say and equals so you can see how it's written, this will clear it out by saying and on that. And then any ones up here get maintained because we put a 1 there just in case. So we basically said for any status that we're not trying to clear, we need to have a 1. So we took this number essentially and flipped it in order to get the canceller. So that's sort of how it works. And then we did an and on it. So notice when we are adding status effects up here, we did an or. When we're removing them, we did an and. But we did an and of the flipped value, and that is the important part. Yes, exactly, Renee. Bit masking and other stuff like that. Basically, bitwise operations, if you know how they work and you can read them, it makes sense. And there's a lot of great stuff that you can do out of this. In our case, because the game that we're manipulating uses this, like, first off, I think it's a great way to have done it anyway, but since the game uses it, we pretty much have to. Like, we could create these another way, but it'd be really insane to go and write our own way of doing this, switch it 2 bits just to apply it. So we get to sort of steal that. So, and then we just write the status, and it works out nicely. So, yay! Okay, so that's our esuna command. It works. Yes, exactly. S&B is correct. It's used in a lot of old games, and it's actually used in file systems. Basically, anywhere that space limitations would be a factor, or even performance is a factor. These are used because you can get away with putting a lot of bits into one spot that are essentially Boolean flags, and in cases where you potentially have multiple Boolean flags that you want to be able to check for, it makes it really easy to just look at, because you can just do an OR of the set, because you might say, hey, if the character is both sleep and something else, maybe there's some effect from that. So there's things you can check. Exactly, and S&B's comment there that on your CPU it actually has native operations for doing all these bitwise operations, which is why they're very, very fast. And welcome. Well, I'm PyDjango, but I'm guessing that's like Python Django is what you're is what you program in. But welcome, thank you for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so esuna works. I want to add something else. Let's talk about statuses. So, the characters are here. Here's a status that people like, because it's funny. We're going to wait a second for the game to do its thing here. Did it not, is Frog not turned on? Hang. Oh, yeah, I forgot, I closed it. Ah, yes, you like Python. I like Python too. It's a good language. I actually was a Python programmer before I switched to C#. I was mostly Python and C++ are what I used for most things, and then I switched over to C#. So, but that, I've been like C# deving it for quite a while now, though. So don't get the idea that was all that recent a change. Although I still do use Python for some things. Okay, so that's back in there. Frog top. Okay, so you can guess what Frog did. It turned that character into a frog. So, nice and cute. He is practically worthless. It's a terrible status effect. But I might want to do something like unfrog. Maybe, I don't know what you'd call that. But that is not a command. So obviously I can esuna top, and it'll clear that out and he's unfrogged. So esuna works, but we, can set a price for esuna removing all the status effects, but someone might just want to remove the frog but not the other status effects. Or maybe a character has a positive status effect that you want to remove. It would make sense to be able to remove that status effect individually. So let's build that into our status effects. So status effect command. There it is. I'm gonna check and see if Discord's still up. Hang on. I don't know if anybody in chat knows. Okay. So inside of our status effect command, you'll notice that it's actually fairly similar to our esuna command, so I kind of want to look at one point and see whether or not these commands can be combined. There are a couple of differences, because it is still down. Okay. Because the status effects, someone can be protected from specific status effects. Example, if a character has, like, hang on, you know what, let me just kill the party real fast. Which sounds hilarious to say, but, I have Petrify, right? Yeah, I do. Okay, as soon as those apply, that'll kill the party. There we go, game over. So, be careful if you are going to stream this game, turning on all those statuses. Some of them do allow chat to just give you a game over. Now, the reason I did this is because I want to look at something else related to it. So let's go ahead and pull up some equipment. So I mentioned that characters can be protected from statuses. So let's say accessory, cloud, what is it, 18? I don't know. Okay, so cloud has been equipped with a ribbon. So protects against all abnormal status effects. essentially. So what this means is that Cloud cannot have poison applied to him, for example. So if I now get into combat, we need to... So we already do handle this, so I'm going to show you really fast just what it does. We cannot poison Cloud. Everyone else can get poisoned, but Cloud cannot. So when the combat starts, these guys run over, combat starts, and I'm going to jump over to here for a second, and we're going to say poison all, and then as soon as it gets going, I'm going to go ahead and... Okay, oh, it didn't apply, so you'll note, oh, that's funny, I was like, oh, it didn't apply to Cloud in time. No, it wasn't supposed to. So that actually worked correctly. So you'll notice that what it came back with is it can't apply poison to the top character, so essentially Cloud. It can't do it. It was able to apply it to Tifa and Barret, and so it did. And that reason is that Cloud has a ribbon attached, so he's not allowed to have that status effect. So we are actually checking that and applying that value. And you might... So the really neat part is that we're actually leveraging... I will show you, I guess, really fast. One of the things that we are... Yes, they turned into the Hulk. One of the things that we're actually doing is... you'll notice that that's called... So I'm not going to dig into this right now, but... and we can thank Mr. Shoji for setting this one up, because he went and did this. The data that we're actually using to determine whether or not Cloud can get that status effect actually comes from the game's kernel. So we're actually reading the game, and the game says that it has an item called ribbon, and that item blocks those status effects. And so that's actually where we got that data. So you'll notice it's loading in all the accessories, the armlets, the materia, and the weapons. So the accessories is where it got ribbon from. So very, very cool stuff there. Yes, the S&B. To be honest, Janisku, when S&B first joined our chat, like, you know, I don't know, whenever he first joined the chat, like a year and a half ago or something like that, I don't remember. I actually did ask him if he was from Germany and from Essen specifically or something like that, just based on, you know, S&B. So yeah, in 2013 or so, back when S&B first joined our chat. Oh, very, very nice, Janisku. Okay, so this is the check to see whether or not they are safe from it. This is to see whether or not... sorry, I checked those in here. This is reporting back the message of, hey, we were not able to apply to that character. This is the message of, you know, the character already has the status effect. Yes, Matt, you are correct. Hey, Green Dolph. Oh, 19 months. Nice. Thank you very much for staying a sub for 19 months, Green Dolph. Glad to have you here. Yes, and one of the other things I like is that Twitch is doing this thing right now where when people sub, they share emotes to other people. You feel old. Green Dolph. What are you like? That makes you feel old? Yeah, I know. Yes. Almost 2 years. Wow, yeah. Okay. Either way, the point being, we have this status effect command. Now, what I'm wondering is, do we want to, do we create a status effect command and a status effect remove command, or do we make them the same command? So right now we have one class that does this. The aches, the pains, loss of hair. Yes. S&B. I don't have. I probably don't have as many aches, pains, and loss of hair. But I do know what you mean. That is the thing that generally makes us feel old. The other one is for every human that I know that I remember when they were born, and I was an adult at the time, and they are behind the wheel of a car driving. All of those people make me feel old. That's one of the things that makes me feel old. It's like, I remember when you were born and I was an adult at the time and you are driving a vehicle. I am old. Yes, dinos do go gray. They turn gray as they age. Not their hair, like the skin. Like they lose the green and it turns gray. Cops look too young to be cops. Exactly, S&B. Exactly. Greetings, friends of considering time being deadly. Yeah. Time, it will get us all eventually. And until that point, we will enjoy all the stuff that we can do. So, thinking about this, I see a couple of paths. We can either... So... So what I was thinking is, like, frog, I was thinking that the commands would be either !frog or !unfrog, and look kind of like that, so frog and unfrog, which, you know, we can, like, names are we're going to set up but also allow the streamers to change, alternately, we could do, like, you know, frog top remove, or something like, we could do something like this. Oh, hey, there you go, S&B and Andre win, so clearly it wasn't rigged. Yay, not rigged today. Yeah, see? There you go. Yeah, defrog would be another valid way of doing it. You could defrog, depoison. I think Final Fantasy Poison. Oh, whoops. Did they ever use this? Yeah, there it is. Okay. So they sometimes have effects that are interesting. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Equipping the heal material. Huh. Oh yeah, we could do cure. We could do cure frog or heal frog. So it could be like heal frog top or cure frog top. So like that. Either of those I think would work pretty well, because if we go that route, then we can immediately tell, oh hey, we're not on, like, we're removing a status, not applying a new one, and we immediately know and can call a different method and do a different set of things. I think because we're checking whether they can apply and whether someone has the status, I think we want a separate method. So let's go with a separate method, which I know is going to be copying the code, except that the reason I think we want to do that is because we're going to do a lot of these same checks, but I think we're going to do them in reverse. So I don't know. We'll see whether or not we can actually share much code between them, but they almost do the opposite thing. I mean, they do the opposite thing, but like, I mean, I think even down to like the individual steps, I think they're always checking the reverse. So we'll make them two separate ones, and we'll see if we can essentially have them share all the same code, but with like a Boolean to flip what it checks, whether it checks that you have it or whether you don't have it. Or so hopefully we can nicely just flip a bit and make it go the other way. Oh, right, I gotta stop the... When the program's running, it doesn't like to let you make changes. So we'll call this the cure status command. Heal status? Status, heal or cure? Heal. Heal is the Final Fantasy VII materia name, so we'll go with heal. So heal status effect command. Alright, so they're going to need to initialize basically the same way. So if we do end up grabbing a shared one, we can at minimum do that. Rambling Geek, hey, welcome, greetings. And Janisco, I don't know if I said hi, but hello, welcome, greetings, welcome to the stream. And Renee, welcome. Sounds good, make sure you have heal, cure, can be aliases. Yeah. We will accept both words in the for using the command, Renee. Yes. Oh yeah, if it's an unscheduled working day on a Saturday, that is a bummer. All right, let's go ahead and extract out at least the base one that has the initialization and the properties, because those definitely are the same. And instead of calling this the status effect, since that was heal status effect, maybe it's cause or apply status effect command. You know what? We're gonna make the base one will be called base. We'll do that. Base one will be called base. Control Shift R. We're going to extract a superclass that we're gonna call. I like starting with the I like base as a prefix rather than a suffix in most cases, because it makes it so it's obvious. Oh, that's a base class. You know, you can just immediately see it that it's a base. Okay, so it's going to have a Twitch client, the party status view model, the status accessor, and a payment processor. It is going to need we're going to want it to have this little static helper for all words. That really just is a helper because we only have one reference to it, but it's nice because it just pulls it out of the code. So I did it as this just because it's like, oh yeah, that's a nice little method to just hide away that. Is that even being used? Oh, I need to change that. Well, we'll change it when we pull it out. Status of a command? Is this the constructor? Those can definitely not come up. This needs to be abstract. This does not need to be public. That can be made private. So when you have an abstract class, you do not need to have a public constructor because nothing is going to create it that is not a child of it. House Basook, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Or follow, sub, whatever that. I know what that thing is that makes me do the headbanging thing. And apparently we're just gonna do this. This has become a dancing stream, everyone. We're just gonna do that. Sorry. No more programming, just dancing. House Bazook, thank you very much for the 6 months of being a sub to this channel. Always appreciated. And Greendolph, thank you very much for gifting that tier 1 sub to Janisku. Janisku! Congratulations, you now have a set of emotes thanks to Greendolph. And Greendolph's just here for the dancing, yeah. Just here for the dancing, you know, and by dancing we mean like headbanging like an idiot. But, you know. I might rename those. Let's move this to its own file. So there's our base status effect command. Whoops. Alright. There we go. So that simplifies nicely. This needs to also be a base status effect command. Which means it no longer needs these. And in fact now needs basically this. So we'll just borrow that and grab the word heal. Okay, so if you missed what I just did, I just yanked all the shared properties and like that we're getting set up in the constructor, and I just said, hey, toss those in a base class because that's, you know, the same between these two. We might as well at least extract out that piece because that is going to be identical. So this currently is applying status effects still. We want to make it work a little bit differently. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is we need to change how we determine whether or not... Ooh. Maybe I can't use the base constructor now that I think about it. Crap. After I just pulled it out, too. I think I can't. I don't think I can. We'll see in a moment. No, I can, but I need to change it. I can't use it the way that it defaultly pulled it out. But I can still use it. thought I made a mistake. I did not. I did not make a mistake. All right. These properties have to get pulled out as well. So all words I had coming in this way. This does not need to be here anymore for this one. All words is coming out of here. All words now belongs over... Wait. Yeah, it belongs over here. Okay, why did I do that? Here's the reason. The way that our commands work right now in this is that we type in status name and target. Okay, if you look in the chat, that's where I typed in the command. So status name target. Status name is actually what we're watching for. So we're watching for words like poison and sleep and paralyze, petrify. So we're watching for those statuses to be in there. And so because of that, we passed in all words as the commands that you listen for in order to respond. Now the problem is because we're going to do cure frog and not frog cure, so essentially instead of saying you know, status name cure target like that, we're saying cure status name target. Okay, because of that we're calling a different command. So passing this in is basically saying, hey, I want to respond to the names of statuses. We don't want to do that. we want to pass this value in. So let's make this a parameter. So this is we'll say that we're using that constructor. And let's go ahead and make this a parameter and that command words. Okay, so we're taking in a string array of command words now. And if we have a look at the heal status command, we've got it right here. So that needs to come from somewhere else. And then the status effect command, this one gets all words. So the one that applies it passes in all words. Excuse me. There we go. Private static, all words. Oh, was that... Oh, that's why it worked that way. Oh, that is hilarious. Oh, man, I cannot believe I did that. That is funny. Oh, God. Oh, that's a riot. Okay. No, yeah. I did a thing. It wasn't good. I'll admit it. I did a thing. Yep. Totally did a thing I shouldn't have done. Came back to bite me. X dot, yeah, there we go. That's what we get. Good job, Brendan. And now I've killed myself by trying to breathe my my drink. We'll continue on with the stream. Okay, so that is a function that takes in command settings and returns back a string array. Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was a string array and not like an IEnumerable string, because that command function? Sure. So that'll be command function. Sure, there we go. Okay, so yes, cure choking streamer. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so the reason we need to pass this in this way is because this essentially is a function that, given the current settings of the system, would do this. I don't want to use a collection because I don't want it to initialize with the collection state at a certain time. I want this to get the current state of the settings of the system. So we pass in a function that says how to get those given the settings. So essentially takes in command settings and determines whether or not this is the command it's supposed to be. So that's essentially what that is. So in the case of the status effects, we pass in basically the names of all the status effects. In the case of the heal status effect, we need to pass in something entirely different, which is going to be like settings dot cure command heal command words. Okay. So we're going to jump over to esuna command words, and we are going to duplicate it. So esuna command words is this property here, and we are going to say, instead of esuna, we're going to say heal. Alright, let's jump to where this was defined. Duplicate heal. And then this is going to be heal, hell, or a cure. And then the other spot we have to get is this right here. So that is the name of the heal command words, and heal command words. There we go. And that should be all of them. Yes, I know, S&B. I could absolutely... Like, this actually is a case of use T4 for that. I will admit it. That's totally fair. We can let Fuel Snable yell at me about that one. That's fine. So now it should trigger based on that word instead. It should now trigger based on cure being called. But in order to see if it's actually working, I'm going to drop that there and registry. I'm going to hop over here real fast. And where are the commands? I need to put these somewhere else. Doop. I have a breakpoint in place on that one, so we'll see if it gets called. We don't really need it. Like, we don't really need it to run. I just need to connect to chat, see if it sends the message at all. Okay, so there it is, and we'll say heal. Frog, cloud, right? All right, we caught a breakpoint inside of the heal command, so looks good to me. That seems like we're calling the right one. The command data that we got is the channel was DevChatter, command text was heal. The total message we got was heal frog cloud. It had 2 arguments, which should be frog and cloud. So that means argument 0 is going to be the status, and argument 1 is going to be the target name. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and stop that now. But that just confirms that, like, we wired up our command the way that we expect, and everything is working right. So, elements at or default index 1. So that is going to be the target. And the status is actually going to be, in this case, arguments first or default. So the first argument is going to be the status we pull, second argument is going to be the target, and if either of them come back without any results, then we say, hey, that was invalid, be sure to, specify invalid status or actor, and we'll say cure poison top as our example. Okay. Next thing is that status has to be enabled for manipulation, and then check target validity. So this needs to be the reverse. So in this case, we're checking to see if they're protected from it. We can say that they're safe from it, and we don't need to do anything. So don't charge them for it. If the character was protected from it, they shouldn't even have the status. And then this one is if character status and this character status and this, if it equals 0, because this is basically their current status effects and that status effect, means that for the bit that this one has, they don't have it. And if that's the case, then everything else is going to be zeros. So that means they don't have it. So we'll call this unaffected. This is the reverse. This is does not have it. Does not have effect. So we'll return does not have effect. That's really long. But that's fine. Okay, so we're saying does not have effect as the result of this. And there it is getting used. Does not have the effect. That is not affected by that status. Unaffected, we can absolutely do that. Unaffected. There we go. That's a reasonable word for it. That's a little bit shorter. So they're not affected by that. Can't apply that status effect to. Let's start with their name. So this one's a little bit differently. Cannot have. They are totally protected by this. Is immune to. Yeah, there we go. Not affected by, is immune to that status effect. Applied blank to the target, so removed blank from. I think it's probably. Does that match with what we said? Removed negative status effect. Removed negative effects from. Yeah. Okay, so in this one, because it was general and we didn't specify which ones, I guess we technically could specify what we removed, but I don't really want to there. Removed blank from them, because they could have a lot of effects, especially with how our program works. Like, you can just pile them on. I watched some people actually use this for a stream, and it gets out of control. Okay, hang on. Alright. So, set actor status. So we want to... I already wrote remove actor status, target, and effect. So we're saying remove that. And you'll remember from earlier in the stream, we were looking at what remove actor status is, because that's how we did esuna. Just with esuna, we passed in a whole series of statuses. With this one, we're doing this set. Hang on. My phone is blowing up. I'm not sure what's going on. Is it just... Oh, okay. Well, that's crazy. I'm just getting small human pictures texted at me. Just non-stop. This is my small human. But, you know. Just funny. Alright, remove actor status. I think this might just work. I think it might. Let's try it. And I'm actually going to flip us onto the BRB screen, only so I can refresh my little menu thingy there, because I like having that splash of color. It's nice. It's nice. I like having a splash of color on the stream. Okay. There's the program. And we're back with color splashed on the screen now. And randomly adjusted. Let's go ahead and... So, when we left off... hang on. There we go. I wanted to make sure I clicked in here and then clicked out so that we don't have... I wanted to make sure those green status effects were on display. So you can see that Tifa and Barrett here are both poisoned. And we're saying cure, poison, bottom should work. Boom! Removed cure from bottom. Fantastic, it works. Nice. Hey, you know what? I have some buttons I haven't clicked in forever. Where are they? I don't know if that button works. Looks like no. Looks like they all broke. Hype works, though. So, yay. So that works. And if I do cure, poison... actually, let's apply poison to all again. So we should get back to, yeah, okay, so that's a great set of message there. It says can't apply at the top because top was immune. It says poison already affects the mid, and then it applied it to the bottom one. So that actually did what we expect, and now when I do cure poison all, it should do the reverse. There we go. Poison was removed from the top, and it was cured from the mid and the bottom, and now, Superius, you are correct. The messages are all wrong. Removed cure from, yeah. Yep, because I used first on those. Where did I... Yeah, I did command text instead of... So we will then not be responding with the name they used. We'll respond with what our main name for it is. Alright, let's restart it real fast. Yes. The message is slightly wrong because we didn't use the status name on that one for some reason, which I should fix elsewhere. Because it's clearly doing that in the status effect, which means that we are responding with what the person told us, which is correct in some cases, but we want to be as correct as we can get. So let's do a quick poison all. Same issue for poison is immune to top. Yeah, okay. I see that. Okay. So they should have it. It's just not displaying correctly. Cure poison mid. Okay, and then cure poison all. So poison is immune to top. Poison is not affected, so we have to fix those. But removed poison from bottom. Okay. All right. So let's adjust those. So instead of going based on yeah, we meant to do this. Target is not affected by the status. And then this is going to be the target is immune to is not affected by and removed status from the target. Okay, those are fixed. Let's have a look. This should be status settings name, because this will be a problem also. Status effect is disabled. Alright, let's have a look at the other one real fast. The blank status effect is disabled. Can't apply status to target. Already affects, yeah, okay, so status already affects the target. That's why I flipped the way that we wrote those and didn't switch them. Applied status to target. Okay. That is a better way to write that. Because I think on the status name, I think status name is going to be the one that is the full name, so I think it's now going to say that it applied poison, instead of saying applied PSN to that, because there's a shorthand for typing it, so that people don't have to write out poison. But they should be, so in this case, they should be the names on the top, like Barrier, Berserk, and Confusion, instead of Conf, Confusion, Confuse. So, Yeah, I like that I accept both frog and toad. Yeah, PSN and poison are both accepted for poison. Alright, so... Oh, Cloud's blocking. Good job, Cloud. So let's poison all again. Can't apply to top. Applied it to mid, applied it to bottom. Okay. So then we'll cure poison mid. So we'll remove hers. So hers is gone. And now we're going to say cure poison all. And then I'm going to read those messages and make sure they look right. Okay. Let's read them. Can't apply poison to top. That's correct. Applied poison to mid. That is correct. Applied poison to bottom. That is correct. Removed poison from mid. That is correct. Top is immune to poison. Mid is not affected by poison. And removed poison from bot. Okay. Aside from a change that I know we need to make based on targets, because I don't really like the idea of replying with top, middle, and bottom, though it works effectively because it is an easy way for someone to just specify which one they are and not have to worry about names, because if you didn't know this game, you don't know that that's Cloud, you don't know that that's Tifa, and you don't know that that's Barrett, so you'd have to type in like Polly, for example, for that character, because chat had control of the names and potentially changed them. So I don't want to have you do that, and I don't want to have to, make everybody remember how to spell Cloud and Barrett and Tifa, etc. So we accept top, middle, and bottom. Though I do want us to be able to specify Polly, things like that. Though I don't think we make these be unique. I think you could have them all be the same name, so we probably will only allow the default character names or position. So... Huh. Well, either way, I think that works nicely, so yay for that. Let's have a look. Let's get this committed. You only just started watching this today. So we are not yet building a way for chat to control the attacks, the spells, the items, and things like that. It might be possible for us to give chat like actual control during battle, but most likely if we do that kind of thing, it's going to be a little bit different. Because if you saw like Twitch Plays Pokemon, for example, one of the reasons why that works so well is because you can give directional inputs in that game, because it really is just on a grid for everything. So that worked fairly effectively for that. Now we could do the same thing for this and enable it in combat and menus and other situations like that. Running on the actual screen could get a little crazy. I mean, we could maybe build a Twitch Plays Final Fantasy VII, but I don't even know what would happen if we tried. But we could. It's not the plan. So this is mostly for streamers right now. So we have other effects like this. Yeah, exactly. Chat votes on the actions that you can take. Yeah. So we could go either way on that one. So one thought that we had was to make it like you could turn on like challenge mode, where essentially chat gets to vote on what status effect gets applied every 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds we might apply a new status effect. And so that was like one suggestion for how we could do that I kind of like, I think might be a good trick. You may not have noticed this, but congratulations, because you asked. Well, sort of asked. We can actually change character names as well, so if you look at the blinking name right now, chat does actually have bidding powers, so chat can actually like change characters' names, and they can actually do that mid-combat. So obviously you can change colors of the menu and things like that, but we do have like other bits of control inside the game that aren't even, like, that's not even a thing you can do mid-game. So, Yeah, so something else we were talking about doing is essentially doing the same status effect commands for the enemies. So you could give regen to a boss, which would be really, really evil, or apply haste to a boss. Like, there are a handful of things that, like, applying status effects to bosses. Now, the challenge there is that we'd need to not do something to a boss that would mess with that boss's AI. So it's riskier to do that, whereas you can mess with a character and it's not as bad. So let's go ahead and take a look at these changes real fast and see if we can't get a commit out of this. Because I don't want to take I don't want to take this further without getting a commit. So that's extracting out the base command. That's creating the heal one. There's the base command. You know, let me go over to the base. Because I want to do this. Since I'm in these, let's go ahead and do some quick, just automatic cleanup in these files. So it's just on this commit. Okay, there we go. Yep, looks good. Looks good. Cure status effect command. Okay, so this all feels part of both. So the reason why I'm putting this, I did a branch for doing esuna. Essentially, the idea was I wanted to create both an esuna command to remove all statuses, and as well as like removing individual statuses from a character. So that's actually what we're building there. This project is super interesting. Wally, I'm glad you like the project. I think it is I think it's a neat one. There are a bunch of people that stream Final Fantasy VII. Some of them are like full-time streamers that this legitimately is their living, is like streaming games like Final Fantasy VII. So, if you can make some cool stuff, help them out, why not? And it's fun for us as well, and lets us dig into both some like old-style programming stuff that we don't get to see much anymore, because while I did point out there are a handful of cases where you know, using those bitwise operations is useful and should get used more than we do, in a lot of our day-to-day like application development, we don't like. It just doesn't come up that often, because it's one of those, we don't think about it because we're like, yeah, there's this like easier way to think of it. So yes, exactly. We actually hit a lot of those basic CS concepts. Yes, exactly, Wally. That's the point. A lot of people just avoid bitwise because it hurts our brains, and so we're like, oh, sorry about that. And so it's like, yeah, but gets the chance to use it, exercise some of that stuff that we don't mess with all that often. So I thought it was cool. So fun stuff here. All right, so that removes status effects. We need to build the screens for those status effects at some point, and I need to adjust costs. Oh, I didn't adjust costs. The cost to remove is the same as the cost to add. That's bad. Alright, so how about a cure cost? I think that makes sense. Cure cost? I would know what cure cost meant. The cost to cure it. Int cure cost. Okay, now I just broke everything that was calling that constructor, which are going to be all of these. Do they all end in 0? They do. Actually, they're the only strings, so we're going to do this. So we're going to modify in the selection. Inside of the selection, we're going to modify that to be I don't know, 100, because I don't have a better answer for that. Oh, and the ones that have multiples I messed up. Okay. So in that case, we're going to go with 0, comma that. And then it's going to be 0, comma that. Did that work? Yes, that worked. Okay, so now they currently all cost 100. I'll need to go reevaluate those. Let's see. Every time I run into some Bitwise code at work, I cry a little. So, yeah, when you find Bitwise code somewhere that you're not expecting Bitwise code to be, it's one of those like, oh God, why'd they do it that way? That's awful. Or sometimes it's mind bending, and you're like, oh, why did you do that? Other times, I think S&B's correct, and you need to rejoice because you're like, oh, good. It's like that's actually a nice way to handle it. So. If it was used for a good reason, then I think it's effective. In this case, status effects I think is a great one because the current status of a character can easily be represented by which sets of these they have, and it could be any set. So you could do that as a collection, or your Boolean could just be the status. But yes, used in a proper context. I mean, it is used in its proper context. Oh, okay, well... Sure, you can cry even when it's used in the proper context if you want. All of us have certain things in coding we don't like. I know a lot of people that cry when they see regexes too. And regexes are useful. They do good stuff. But yes, not all of us always like all the different ways of doing things. Excuse me. Okay. So that should be that. So in the heal... we do not want to use cost. We want to use cure cost. But as a junior coming in, I was like, what in the world am I looking at? Yes, that is one of the other challenges, extensive, is if you are going to do that kind of thing, you need to hide it as far away as possible from people whose eyes will bleed as a result of it. So that's nicely done in this code by the fact that if you look at how our esuna command works, you'll see that we do clear negative statuses here. And this is hidden away, like right here we do that, but everybody else can just call clear negative statuses, and they don't need to worry about how that happened. And then when we look at this, like, yeah, is this mind-bending and painful sometimes? Like, yeah, for like a junior, developer that doesn't know how Bitwise stuff works, this is going to be painful. And so is, like, some of these things like this, but they're hidden away just in this file. Like... We've hidden them basically as close as we can to the code where it's using it, so that you can just look at the method name and know what it's doing without having to see how it did it. You've got your own set of data structure with Bitwise stuff that you benchmark 20 to 600 times mastered in the base class library hash set for some use cases. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is that like. The base stuff is designed to work in a lot of scenarios. If your scenario can use a more trimmed down version, you can get performance gains on the base version. That being said, make sure that you're actually benchmarking it because the base ones, for some cases, are better than you'd think. Talking of data structures, you use... Oh. That's fun. We don't have that many really interesting data structures in this project. I would say, not really Not really too much to do with this one, so. Cure cost. Cure cost. We're going to need to add that to the display. So let's go ahead and do that while I'm thinking about it. And by add it to the display, I mean go over here and say to do add to the settings screen view. Esuna command words are not on the settings screen, and heal command words. The esuna command. What's it base? It allow esuna command. There it is. That needs to get added to the screen, and the esuna cost needs to get added to the screen. So I just want to put those in there because that's little task reminders for me that I just need to toss those on the screen. Easy way to do that. I can toss those on GitHub issues, but these are also nice flags of where it is. Even if I make a GitHub issue, I still want to find it in the code, and those are really good identifiers. For anyone that doesn't know, the to-do keyword that I have here in my comment, that actually lets, yeah, see, add to settings screen. I have a bunch of things, so when I go and I work on those setting screens, those are the reminders. I can just jump to each one of those and just double click on it. It'll take me to the setting that I need to put on the screen somewhere. So, yep, very nice. Okay. I like it. It's good stuff. What do we want to apply to all of them? Petrify all? Nope, it's not running. Derp. Helps if you're running it, Brendan. Helps if you're running it. Derp. Connect. As soon as he's done shooting, it should petrify the whole party. Oh, I can't petrify Cloud. That's true, I cannot petrify Cloud. Can he hit himself with a limit break? No. But he can shoot himself with this. It's 10 p.m. there. So it's about to be 10 p.m. there. I would guess you're somewhere in Central European time. Just based on that timing there. Rippin'. And I would guess somewhere in Northern Europe. Yeah, there you go, Germany. I was guessing somewhere in the north only because of that HEI Zung. So, yep, Germany, makes sense, makes sense. Did that light blink off? For some reason, I think my light blinked off. Well, either way, let's close that, because that's yes, S&B. That is a very famous sword. The Buster Sword. Yep. If you know your Final Fantasy at all, you know that weapon. That is the Buster Sword. Well, I'm trying to load the game again. That's what I get for giving Cloud that ribbon item, because it makes him immune from the status effects, which means I don't have the ability to just petrify the whole party to cause a game over. Because the game... So, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the menu, you'll notice that there is a save, and the quit just closes. It doesn't actually... It doesn't take you to the load screen. It kills the whole program, so there's no way to go back to the load screen without restarting the game. The only way to get there is to have your whole party die and you get a game over. So you need a game over because there's no quit on the menu. So it's one of those really annoying little quirks there. So in order to actually show that I have to do it that way. Okay, yeah, see? Buster Sword. That's the weapon that he's got there. Rainbow! Thanks, S&B. Now we have a menu up, and everybody can see the rainbow. Ooh, ah. So, I gotta say, I really do like the rainbow effect. Like, it looks really neat just to watch those change. Hey, it's just me. Good visuals here on the DevChatter stream sometimes. Just looks nice. Very nice, S&B. Very nice. Do you have small humans there or something? Small humans. Trying to think. I don't wanna mess around in the status screen today. That's too big of a change. Well, hopefully the small humans are enjoying their Peppa Pig. My nieces were big Peppa fans. I don't know if there's a word for that. You know, like if that's a named group. What else do we need to change about status effects to make that work better? Oh, we need to look for imprisoned. We need to look for imprisoned. This. Pep heads? Okay, yeah, see, there was... That works. Yeah, see, I didn't know what it was, but that makes sense. Okay. Let me explain. So, anyone that knows, anyone that was here earlier on when we first did our status effect command, might remember that a problem we ran into was when one of the characters was equipped with an item that protected them from a status effect. If the character got that status effect, because we gave it to them, we used to let that happen. Now, here's the problem. The game, Final Fantasy VII, does not allow that status to get removed because it says the character couldn't even get it in the first place, so they can't have their poison removed. They can't, basically the game gets in a bad state. And so what we did to get around that is we said, okay, we'll check the same thing. We won't apply the status if the character's not supposed to have it. So we check their equipment. We say, okay, Cloud has a ribbon. Okay, don't apply poison. Don't apply sleep. Don't let those statuses happen. So we protected from that. The next challenge is there are a couple of battles. One of them where your characters are imprisoned. And then there is another where so in one of them a character can get trapped inside of a bubble, and another one they can get trapped inside of a little pyramid shape. And in either of those scenarios, we need to make sure that we do not let that stuff. We need to make sure we don't apply status effects, because bad things happen when the character is imprisoned and you start applying status effects, as I found out. So, because certain status effects seem to have problems when they get applied while a character's imprisoned. Don't ask me. And there's the Brendan menu color. Okay, so what I want to do is... we're going to say you're an invalid target if you're imprisoned. And yes, it's purple squiggling because I currently am debugging, so it's complaining about the fact that I'm changing things. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say if the character's current status of value, if they're imprisoned, add them to the safe from list for now. We're going to leave them in that one, which is they cannot currently be targeted by this effect. So don't allow that one to happen. I'm not sure whether or not we should block them from getting a status removed while they're imprisoned. We'll need to find out whether that causes an issue. Imprisoned is the status that they get when they are inside of that pyramid. So I think that should protect them. We'll say pyramid check, which we might need to look at more information than that, but for now, I think that'll be enough. Why don't I put this inside of a method? So this should be the method. So let's go ahead and stop the program here for a second. So this will extract as extract a method called has status. Why isn't that on the character record? Could I just put has status on here? Yeah. Now this has both the value as well as string versions of them, because this is used for display also. Actually, that's properties up there, so we'll put the method down here, because I think that's just a constructor. Constructor-ish. Has status. Status effects. Status effect. Status. Actually, let's do it like this. Status. So that and that is greater than 0. If that, then they have the status. Yeah. So we don't need this. And we can now write this as character record dot has status. There we go. Which means up here we can do the same thing but with imprisoned. And that is a much nicer way of writing that. And although I still want to put this in a method. Is in pyramid. For now is going to be this. Now, the reason why I put this in here is because I want to do additional checks, because I'm not sure where else the imprisoned status gets used in the game. So I don't want to cause a problem there. Now, the interesting thing that many of you might not know about, party, let me see if I can find one. So, here we go. This is an example of one. So, people on the internet for a long time have been essentially mapping out this game, reading, like learning about it and figuring out how this game works. So some guy back in, looks like 05 and then made an update in 2009, essentially just dug into Final Fantasy VII and figured out a whole mess ton of like what is going on. Now, where this guy obtained this information, whether it was from just looking through the code or compiled from other sources, I don't know, but this is not the only guide about the game, but this is specifically just how the party characters work. This is all the stuff about the leveling, the stats, and everything like that. So, have I read through this document? Absolutely not. There's way more information than I would possibly want to read for this. But the point being that there's a lot of this kind of stuff available. So, if you are ever working on projects like this where you are going to be, like, messing with other stuff, just know that you're not the only one digging into this. Someone else has looked into this kind of thing. And it's good to either leverage resources that they've made available to you or ask them yourself. So as many of you that are in here and have watched a previous stream of this know, we actually teamed up with another guy that was building a exactly, yes, as S&B mentions, thank heaven for geeks and nerds, because I mean even the stuff that I'm doing, like there are some people that are just thrilled by this, because like we're digging into this, like into the game in this way and finding out about cool stuff. So this guy right here, Mr. Shoji, is someone else that we've sort of teamed up with a little bit, because he was also building a tool for this, and this is what he built.